Well, welcome back. And if I hope that that was a good opportunity for you all to have some discussion around where you landed as it relates to what you foresee as being areas in which you want to grow and develop your nonprofit as it relates to those principles. If we could just kind of hear from maybe one or two of the groups, not all eight, just one or two, just what transpired in your discussion.
This is Angelique with the Livestock Conservancy. I think the first thing was that we couldn't remember all the check boxes that we had, and trying to fish those back out of our memories was a bit of a challenge. But the one thing I think that really stuck with me is that as everybody was sharing, that we realized that while we had marked ourselves mainly in one category or the other, that there were, a lot of check marks that we could put in some of the other categories. And I think that speaks to the fact that, a lot of this is cyclical. So you move from one to the next and back again. So that was my big takeaway on that one. And I think the same with the group.
Thank you. Angelique, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I see some agreement in the chat. Is there another breakout room before we move into our close? Is there another breakout room for?
Yeah, I think one thing we said, right, was more check boxes in an area such as either build or thrive than expected. One person in the group said that she thought that her organization would have a lot more in the sustain, and then as you go and like really start breaking everything down, it's like, oh, maybe not. Maybe we're not quite where we thought we were. Not that thriving is a bad place to be, of course, but that there were just more check boxes kind of in some of the certain categories than they would have thought.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. And we will definitely pick up here with the results of the assessments, the capacity assessments, when we see each other next week. There are, we just wanted to lend some time or give you some time to really have some conversation around that task, because it takes some time to think through capacity and what areas you want to work on. And so hopefully you'll have some time between now and next week also to continue to review your information and your thoughts around areas in which you want to work on and as it relates to growth and development of your nonprofit. So, so that said, if we could go to the slide number 9. So we started off by sharing our agenda for today, and we did just that. We focused on the framework. We spent some time working with the principals, did quite a bit of work around understanding the build, thrive, and sustain frames that we use to indicate where we are in terms of our current management condition. We did 2 levels of assessment in terms of capacity. We focused on the overarching build, thrive, and sustain descriptions as it relates to each principle. And then we went a little deeper and indicated which practices we want to work on in alignment with those topics that we're going to cover in the Institute. Yes, we concluded with you submitting your information electronically, and we will be reviewing that information and studying that to inform us as to how to areas we might need to focus on as it relates to the upcoming topics and the content that we're going to cover. We invite you to do the evaluation on our session today. I'm going to let Rebecca talk about that. And then if there are any, I always like to do a check-in before we officially close out to just kind of give me an understanding of right now I'm thinking what as it relates to what we've done so far and what we have planned for you in the coming weeks. Rebecca, the evaluation.
All right, so Leslie's going to take us to our closing screen. I'm going to pop the session evaluation in here for you to take once we conclude. It may also pop up in your browser if it's preloaded. you will get a copy of the recording from today's session, the PowerPoint presentation, as well as a separate email, which will come from me, including all your practices evaluation results. It'll be in a PDF format. I did want to mention, you know, our goal is to send out those wraparound emails by the end of the day, if not tomorrow, by close of business. So you have some days to digest and everything. For those of you, if you've messaged me about having any difficulty getting your workbook back or getting your workbook in the mail, I'll be in touch with you and we'll figure out what's going on there. And if we need to, we'll send you a new one, but hopefully it's coming. Or it's on its way to you, but we can track that as well. I did want to draw your attention or bring your attention to our upcoming professional development opportunities, one of which is this week, and I know some of you may be interested in attending. We have a nonprofit legal compliance workshop that's coming up this Wednesday. It's led by David Heinen with some other folks. It's an excellent session for you to be involved in and included in. I'm going to pop into the chat the link to our webinar page, and you'll see the nonprofit legal compliance workshop on there, building better board session that we're going to be doing a shared revenue opportunity with another sister association that's coming up in October, as well as some other interesting professional development opportunities. We know that this isn't your last stop on your journey and that there are other needs you may have. Please note that we did want to say a special thank you to all of our members joining us. If you're interested in membership, I'll go ahead and pop that link in the chat as well. It's a great way for you to get discounts on trainings like the ones I've described today. You can get free copies of some of our publications, like our legal compliance checklist, which is great for nonprofits to have, in addition to a whole slew of other member benefits. So did want to make sure that that was on your radar as well. Any questions about closing up for today's session? Feel free to raise your hand or unmute.
Will we be able to get the answers to those questions, our specific surveys?
Yes.
Did you mention that? You did.
Yes, yeah, no worries. Yeah, we'll be sending those out. It'll come to you as a private email. Your responses are just shared with you, your individual responses. So you'll get an email from me by the close of this week with all of your results. It'll be in a PDF format. Excellent. Well, before we do our quick closing, I know Dr. Palmer wanted to do a check-in with each of you to see where you're at, if you have any lingering questions. Our next session will be a week from today on Tuesday. We'll be covering the topic of board governance. We're really looking forward to it.
Is this the time for questions?
Sure.
Is it all right if I invite other members of our organization to participate in specific parts of like specific sessions with me? Or is that not appropriate? Should I just share videos with them? They're just, you know, as I'm looking at what's coming up, I'm thinking about some of our committee chairs and things like this who are helping with these things in our organization. It would be helpful to have them sit in with me if they're available.
I can speak to that. We do have a tight registration for this group to try to maintain a level of virtual experience that we want to provide to you all. You are more than welcome to share any of the recordings that you receive in a wraparound email. You can forward that to anyone on staff that you think should listen in on that. And then you could set up a time to talk with them about any things that are on your mind. But we do ask that sort of the folks who are registered and have paid to attend this session sort of stay within this group.
Thank you.
Yep, good question.
Are there any other questions? So just as a temperature gauge for me, give me just kind of share if you don't mind. Right now you're thinking what about what we covered today, what's ahead of us? Just kind of give me an idea of where you are.
I think this was a really useful exercise today. Thank you for having such a detailed framework here for us to really be able to identify our strengths. I know someone in our group said when she was looking through and doing that exercise that she felt really great about where her organization has come in the last 5 years. And I would say that I also felt encouraged. I also felt a bit overwhelmed, but I imagine we all feel that at times as we look at all the work that needs to be done, and that it especially when it comes to board building. I think a lot of people in our final group talked about board building, and we all know how hard that is to identify board members and have a succession planning and all that stuff going on. But overall, I think this was such a productive and tangible way to really identify where we have strengths and where we have needs, and some specific things we could bring back to the rest of the people in our organization to highlight both those strengths and, for lack of a better word, weaknesses. And so thank you for that. It's very well worth the 3 hours today.
I agree. I think for me, with this being such a new venture for me, I mean, our organization's only 3 years old. There's that expression, you don't know what you don't know, which I hate saying that, but it's true. And for me, that's exactly it. I think this helped me to identify areas that I wasn't quite sure about, to know what we need to work towards. So it highlighted a lot of really good practices that I didn't know about before, or that I had heard about but didn't quite understand exactly what they meant. It also gave me some reassurance to hear that even established organizations can kind of ebb and flow through build and thrive. So that made me feel a little bit better as well. And just to have a camaraderie, because this can be, you know, when you're first starting something like this, you can feel like an island unto yourself. So it's nice to see others, you know, in the same community, and just learn about their experiences as well. So it's been great.
And for those of you who have responded in the chat, thank you so much for that. I look forward to working with you in the weeks to come. We typically end our sessions with this moment of where we want to hear back from you. And please share with us in the evaluations just your perception and your take on your experience as it relates to each session. We debrief and we try to make adjustments so that we're meeting your needs throughout your experience. So nice to meet you. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to the weeks ahead. I see our president of the NC Center for Nonprofits, Jean, is here. Jean, I don't know if you want to make a final comment, and or Lisa, our Chief Learning Officer.
I will just say thank you, Dr. Palma. I listened in all the way through. I heard some interesting comments and questions that I'm going to circle back with our team on. And I look forward to joining you again next week. And then I hand it off to Lisa.
I'm not going to be the one to stand between you and lunch. So
thank you.
This is my second time through the Institute, and each time I go through, I learn so much, not only from the participants, but Dr. Palmer as well. So again, I too am excited and look forward to seeing you all next week.
Let's have lunch. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next week.